There's one character that is hated, scorned, and just overall treated so unfairly in World of Warcraft. It's Garrosh Hellscream.
It sure is.
And why, you might ask? Well, that is a good question, so sit back, weary listener, and listen to this sad story of cruelty and of misunderstandings towards a young orc who only wanted to do good.
He's a good boy.
Was the son of the orc chieftain Garrosh Hellscream, who sadly had to leave to go to war when Garrosh was just a little boy. While his father was
So he's abandoned by his dad.
Gone, Garrosh grew sick and frail with a nasty case of the chicken pox, and so his clan sent him to live in Mag'har, a place where all sick and helpless children go to either recover or to die. While there,
What the
Garrosh
fuck?
dreamed of his father, and whether or not he was okay, praying that he was still alive.
What is this, the fucking Lion King? Look at this. This is the Lion King. Did this happen, or did Nixxiom just make all this shit up? Blizzard is stealing from the Lion King now.
Each night, Garrosh dreamed of returning with his father to his tribal lands. Yet with each passing month, there was no sign of the orc chieftain.
That's right.
One day, however, word drifted into Nagrand that the orcs had drank demonic blood.
Why did he say it like that?
Lands. Yet with each passing
Listen.
month, there was no sign of the orc chieftain.
That's how he says it.
One day, however, word drifted into Nagrand that the orcs had drank demonic blood
I don't like it.
and had become corrupted. The people of Mag'har were shocked, but even more so when the news came that it was Garrosh Hellscream who had been the first to drink. Garrosh was in shock, embarrassed, and disgusted, and so too were his fellow young orcs in the village.
Not
For the
even his
next
fault.
Several years they teased Garrosh, threw rocks at him, and called him names, despite the fact that one day Garrosh was meant to lead the village. For years, Garrosh was depressed, angry, bullied, but he found comfort in a small Elec plushie that his mother had given him before she died. One day, however, everything changed. Into the sickly village one morning came Garrosh's savior, a man unlike anything he had seen before.
That's a horse.
Atop a white unicorn with golden hooves and bubblegum hair came a massive talking green pickle, bringing with him a message of hope. You see, the pickle spoke to Garrosh first and told him of his father, Garrosh. He said to Garrosh that although Garrosh had been corrupted by the orcs, it had been he who had saved their people from the blood curse by giving up his very life. Garrosh was in awe at the story of the Pickle Messiah, even more so when the Great Pickle told him that he himself led the remaining host of orcs from Grom's horde on another world. When this was said, Garrosh fell to his knees and begged the Green One to take him atop his white unicorn steed and show him the lands from whence he came.
Oh my god.
The Green Pickle agreed, and together, the two rode off into the sunset.
What the fuck?
When the two at last reached the kingdom of Pickle Jesus,
What's wrong with this is that it's actually not completely wrong. I never looked at it this way.
Garrosh found it to not be what he expected. Where he envisioned a land of beauty and sandwich bread, instead he found a dry, boring, and dusty desert where all the orcs lived miserably. Garrosh asked the pickle why he forced his orcs to live in such terrible conditions, but the pickle responded only by slapping Garrosh across his innocent face and telling him to shut his mouth. And so for months, Garrosh lived alongside the suffering orcs who were starving, lived in the most filthy of mud huts, and constantly suffered from sunburn. Garrosh was saddened and disgusted by the Pickle's kingdom, but what could he do? After all, he was just one orc.
That's true.
One day, however, after Garrosh had finished baking gingerbread cookies and helping old orc women cross the street, he was summoned by the Great Pickle to a council. There, the Pickle told Garrosh of the threat of the Scourge, a massive army of undead that threatened all life on Azeroth. Garrosh quickly stated that the undead should be dealt with and destroyed, but the Pickle said that he wasn't ready to commit troops to any war yet, as he was having the orc army build another mansion for him. Garrosh was outraged by the Pickle's arrogance, so much so that he attacked him, and the two entered into a fight. For a moment, it almost seemed as if Garrosh was going to defeat the evil magical Pickle, but suddenly, their fight was stopped by a zombie dragon invasion on Orgrimmar.
Oh yeah, the
As the
expansion
Pickle
of it.
recovered from his wounds, Garrosh ran off to defend the city
this happened,
along
yeah.
with the soldiers of the Horde, and together they repelled the undead host.
That's right.
After the battle, Garrosh claimed that he would lead the forces of the Horde into Northrend and defeat the evil Lich King, sparing the orcs from suffering
Why are
any
his eyes
further
purple?
pain. And from the shadows, the great Pickle watched in anger. In Northrend, Garrosh led his troops with honor, slaying countless undead, preaching of honor, freeing slaves that the Lich King had taken prisoner,
That's
and
true.
more. Under his leadership, the Horde burned Naxxramas, defeated Yogg-Saron, and even cast the Lich King from his throne atop the dreaded Ice Cream Citadel. While in Northrend,
Yeah,
Garrosh's men
that's
hailed
right.
him as a war
That's
hero
right.
and claimed that he was the greatest leader the Horde had ever known, something that upset the Pickle even further. One night, under the cover of darkness, the Pickle decided to execute a master plan to defeat Garrosh. He had made the mistake of bringing him to Azeroth, and now he would have to correct it. That evening, the Pickle began to edit Garrosh's Wowpedia page, making claims that he treated the Alliance like garbage, that he acted like a brute when in the audience of King Varian, that he constantly questioned authority, and that he was an overall dick. Across
That's right.
Azeroth, thousands read these edits
That's
and believed
right.
them to be true. Garrosh's image was ruined in the eyes of all that were not with him in Northrend.
That's right.
When Garrosh returned to Orgrimmar, he was treated as a hero by some, but by others as a huge jerk. One in particular was Cairn Bloodhoof, who
Fuck
kept
that
telling
guy,
Garrosh that
dude.
he was a pussy, and he would never 1v1 him outside of Orgrimmar.
Wow.
Garrosh had no time for mere duels, however, for the Pickle had summoned him to his palace to talk.
Look at that.
While there, the Great Pickle told Garrosh that he was going back to Nagrand to plow orc bitches and enjoy a nice vacation, something that made Garrosh rather upset. But in his stead, however, the Pickle would appoint Garrosh as war chief of the Horde.
Oh.
Garrosh was shocked at such a thing, but he agreed, and
Oh.
he took up the title with honor, not realizing the evil plan the Pickle had conjured for him. After becoming war chief, everyone...
Have you seen this idiot? And it's he's the war chief. See, here's the thing, right? Is that's actually what Thrall did. He literally just left the Horde to go fuck bitches. And then he puts Garrosh in charge. Garrosh doesn't even want to be in charge.
continued
I forgot
to give
all about
Garrosh
this.
a hard time, despite his attempts to explain that the Wowpedia propaganda page wasn't true and was written by people who were biased against him.
That's right.
Nobody took him seriously. Vol'jin called Garrosh a huge loser and left the city along with his trolls.
Yeah.
And Cairn just kept bitching about wanting to 1v1 outside Orgrimmar's gate. Finally, when his stress levels had grown so high, Garrosh did agree to the 1v1, and both he and the Tauren leader went at it outside the city. Garrosh, being the master of PvP that he was,
That's right.
obviously won, and Cairn totally got wrecked. This made many orcs admire Garrosh more.
Yeah.
But later on Wowpedia,
Yeah.
many within the Horde read that Garrosh had cheated in the fight, turning more and more against him. And this was how it was for Garrosh for a number of years. He was blamed for bombing a druid academy in Stone Talon. He was blamed for unleashing the plague of undeath in Gilneas. He
Look
was
at this.
blamed for dropping a mana nuke on Theramore when he wasn't even there at the time. He was blamed for starting a war in the land of the pandas, trying to steal a magic dinner bell, infesting
The fuck?
himself with an old god's power, and more. All the while, Garrosh just tried to drown out the voices. It was like he was a young boy again, being mocked by his fellow orcs for doing nothing wrong. Sometimes he had weak moments, but he remained strong when he stood before the Horde, still
right.
unaware that it was the pickle ruining his...
Look at his HP laptop, dude. Probably got that from Walmart for $450 on sale. You know, the biggest thing that it advertises that it's got a built-in webcam. This guy's sitting in here making shit up about Garrosh. This is Blizzard, right? It should just say Blizzard right there because Blizzard changed everything.
Image from his laptop in Nagrand. Finally, the majority of the Horde had had enough of Garrosh, and so too did the Alliance. Together, both the Horde and the Alliance armies marched upon Orgrimmar, and despite Garrosh's attempts to end the issue diplomatically, none would listen to him. Propaganda had blinded them, and so they sieged Orgrimmar, broke into Garrosh's throne room, and did battle against the Orc war chief. Outnumbered, and just heartbroken at this betrayal, Garrosh allowed himself to be captured, knowing full well that these people intended to execute him.
That's right.
But as he awaited his execution, something miraculous happened. While in the cage, the Pickle's magical white unicorn came to him, telling Garrosh that he was sympathetic towards him, and that he could free him from his bindings and send him to a happy world free of hatred and fear. Garrosh, now broken and weeping, agreed. That is when the unicorn teleported him to an alternate timeline, one where he could live peacefully with his father and his clan. The one thing that Garrosh had always wanted.
See, that's peaceful.
But the Pickle wouldn't let such a thing happen. From the shadows, he ordered Vol'jin, the new leader of the Horde, to enter into this alternate timeway with him and to help kill Garrosh once and for all. The Troll war chief, blinded by the Wowpedia propaganda, eagerly agreed. Armies of both the Horde and the Alliance poured into this alternate peaceful timeline, the place where Garrosh had hoped he would find peace and love at last. But instead, he watched as his plan was butchered before his eyes. His father's honor was disgraced by the overwhelming forces of the Horde and the Alliance, and more. Finally, as Garrosh was sitting atop a small hill in Nagrand, he heard a familiar voice behind him. "Sup, bitch," the Great Pickle said. Garrosh, with a sad sigh, turned to face him. When he did, however, he was in shock at what he beheld. Pickle Jesus had his laptop open, and he taunted Garrosh by showing that it was him all along who had been spreading all the lies and falsehoods about him on Wowpedia and other websites. Enraged, Garrosh attacked the Pickle, screaming about how hopeful he was when he had been made the war chief, only to have it all ruined by the Pickle's lies throughout his reign.
That's right.
All the while, the massive talking Pickle laughed at Garrosh and called him a little bitch.
Whoa.
Finally, when the Pickle had grown tired of the battle, he used his cheating magical powers to make a rock hand come out of the ground, grab Garrosh, and slowly begin to crush his bones. "Any last words?" the Pickle said. Garrosh, with his last breath before a great bolt of lightning struck him, simply said, "I trusted you." As the bolt of lightning took away Garrosh's life, the Pickle laughed in sheer delight, watching the younger orc die in agony. When it was all over, he even left his corpse atop the hill for all to see as proof of what happens when you betray the interests of the Great Pickle. And so Garrosh's body still sits atop that hill today, slowly wasting away. Some like to remember him as the great leader that he was never given credit for.
That's right.
But I like to remember him as the orc who did nothing wrong.
That's right.
Who was wrongfully betrayed.
That's right.
By who he thought was his closest friend.
You're goddamn right.
Poor Garrosh.
See, this is Nixxiom knows.